Milky Way Part 1. The Heavenly Whisper. In the stillness of night, when the world softens its voice and only the soul remains awake, something sacred stirs for Scorpio. It is not a noise, not a dream, but a vibration, an ancient echo rising from beyond the veil, and it calls to you by name. Scorpio, your journey has never been simple. You were born under a sign that feels everything, the pain, the beauty, the joy, the betrayal, all magnified. It's as if your heart speaks a language few others can hear, a sacred dialect of depth and transformation. And tonight, that heart is being addressed directly, not by coincidence, but by design. There are moments in a Scorpio's life when the physical world becomes too thin to contain the truth. You feel the presence of something beyond, in a breeze that wraps around your shoulder, in a dream that lingers long after morning, in a memory that arrives without warning. This isn't fantasy. It's the dimension your soul knows well. And tonight, it is your mother's voice, soft and sacred, that travels across time and space to reach you. Not every soul hears these calls. But Scorpio, you do. Not because you are fragile, but because you are attuned to suffering, to longing, to the sacred thread that connects all things. From the day you were born, your soul remembered more than others. You didn't cry like other children. You felt. You watched. You listened for meanings hidden beneath the surface of every moment. And your mother saw that in you. Whether she had the words or not, she knew her child was different. Tonight, as this message unfolds, know this. You are not alone. You were never alone. Even in the silent years, even in the moments when you stared at the ceiling and whispered into nothing, someone was listening. Your mother, no longer bound by body or limitation, has been beside you all along. Not as a ghost, but as a force, a guardian, a steady light in your darkest hour. Do you remember that afternoon? The one where the sun felt too harsh, the silence too loud? Maybe you were walking through the world on autopilot, carrying too much in your heart. And then, out of nowhere, came a scent. A familiar one. Her perfume. Her kitchen. The warmth of her hug. That wasn't your mind playing tricks. That was memory made manifest, her love reaching out. In my years studying astrology, I've seen this with so many Scorpios, a pattern, a pull. You are the alchemist, the healer, the soul who carries more than their share so others may breathe. And with that power comes pain. Often, your most tender experiences have been misunderstood or dismissed by the world around you. But your mother? She never misunderstood. She might have been silent. She might have been distant. But she knew. And now, beyond time and form, she speaks with clarity. Child of my heart, her spirit whispers, you have survived storms I could never prepare you for. You have walked paths I never imagined. And still, you rise. Still, you love. It is not weakness that made you feel deeply, Scorpio. It is your divine gift. The world may have told you that your tears were too many, your thoughts too intense, your passions too overwhelming. But your mother sees them now as your greatest strengths. She sees you clearly, not through the lens of this world, but through the lens of spirit, where only truth survives. I once met a Scorpio woman in her 50s who had lost her mother at a young age. For decades, she carried a pain so deep it became a part of her bones. She didn't talk about it. Instead, she poured her energy into work, into caring for others, into controlling what little she could in a chaotic world. But one night, she dreamed vividly her mother appeared in a garden, sitting quietly, hands folded, eyes full of love. No words were spoken, just presence. She woke with tears streaming down her face and a knowing in her heart. She was loved. Still. Always. That's the thing about Scorpio. You don't need grand gestures. You just need the truth. And that truth is this. Your mother has not left you. Her love did not end. Her message is not one of sorrow, but of empowerment. She is here to remind you of your strength, your purpose, your sacred inheritance. You are the gatekeeper between this world and the next. You were born under the sign of transformation for a reason. And now, your time has come, and not to mourn, but to rise. To walk forward with her love wrapped around you like armor. To carry her light inside your chest. Let the world think you are mysterious. Let them say you're too intense. What they don't see is the universe you hold behind your eyes, the storm and the stillness, the grief and the grace. Scorpio, this is only the beginning. Growing Heart Part 2, Scorpio's Sacred Heart. Scorpio, when others speak of strength, they often mean resistance, the ability to stay unmoved, unshaken. But your strength is different. It's not about silence in the storm. It's about walking straight into it, eyes open, heart exposed, and spirit unafraid to be shattered, because you know what shattered things can become when touched by light. Your heart is not a fortress. It is a sacred temple, a place of initiation, a chamber where pain and beauty coexist, where shadows are not cast out, but invited in, understood, and transformed. You don't just feel, you merge. You absorb. You hold people, even broken ones, as if they were made of glass. And sometimes they are. The world has rarely made space for hearts like yours. It rewards the composed, the detached, the polished. But you? You were born to love without safety nets, to offer depth in a world hungry for surfaces. And yes, that has often left you exposed, raw, misunderstood, even punished. But Scorpio, do not curse your depth. That depth is sacred. In ancient texts, Scorpio was called the sign of the eagle and the phoenix, and for good reason. Where others retreat, you transform. Where others deny, you dive deeper. Your heart has the power to alchemize pain into purpose. And that is no small gift, that is soul magic. I remember once speaking with a young Scorpio man who had survived a heartbreak so profound it silenced him for years. His friends told him to move on, to forget her, but he didn't. Instead, he turned inward. He wrote letters he never sent. He lit candles. He studied dreams. And slowly, over time, that pain became a compass. It pointed him back to himself. He didn't just recover, he resurrected. And in doing so, he found his calling, helping others who had been abandoned by those who couldn't handle their depth. That's the story of the Scorpio heart. It doesn't just break, it rebirths. Again and again. You rise not in spite of your emotional intensity, but because of it. Your tears are not a sign of fragility, but of authenticity. In each drop is encoded a history of what it means to be fully human and fully divine. People may not always understand you. They may find your presence too much. But what they are sensing is your truth, your clarity, your soul, unfiltered. That kind of honesty is rare. And yes, it can be uncomfortable. Because you don't speak just to speak. You speak to reveal, to cut through illusion, to open old wounds with the hope they'll finally heal. Even as a child, you likely saw through things, felt the tension adults tried to hide, knew when someone was lying, even if they smiled. This wasn't imagination. It was intuition. A Scorpio's radar is unmatched. You pick up what others miss, the tremble in a voice, the avoidance in an eye, the weight behind a word left unsaid. And perhaps that's why your mother chose to speak to you in silence. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she knew you'd feel it. Because you always did. Even when no one was watching. Even when she was too tired to show it. You felt her love. You felt her pain. And now, you feel her presence. So if your heart aches more deeply than you can explain, if you love with a ferocity that scares even you, if you grieve in waves so large they feel like oceans, know this, your heart is not broken. It is sacred. It is alive. You were never meant to numb yourself. You were never meant to get over it. You were meant to move through it, slowly, courageously, powerfully. And on the other side, you'll find not only healing, but wisdom, compassion, the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. Your mother sees this now more than ever. From her place beyond, she sees your heart as it truly is, not wounded, but wise, not fragile, but fierce. She watches over you not with pity, but with reverence. For she knows, your sacred heart is one of the rarest gifts this world has ever known. Link Part 3. The Invisible Bond. There are bonds so profound, so unshakable, they survive even death. Scorpio, yours is such a bond. Between you and your mother exists a thread, not spun from flesh and time, but from something much older. A resonance, a vibration, a spiritual contract sealed long before your first breath. You may not always see her, but you feel her. In the moments you need her most, when the world goes silent, when you stand alone at the edge of something terrifying or beautiful, she is there. Not in body, but in presence. Not in words, but in essence. There's something uncanny about the Scorpio soul. You don't just experience life, you remember it, as though echoes of past lives still reverberate in your bones. That's why you connect so deeply with loss. Not because you seek pain, but because your soul recognizes grief as a teacher, an alchemist, a sacred bridge between here and beyond. This is why your mother reaches you, because she knows you'll feel her, even now, especially now. A friend of mine once shared a story her mother had passed when she was just a teenager. She had tried for years to suppress the grief, hiding behind achievements and distractions. But on the morning of her 33rd birthday, she woke up sobbing from a dream. In the dream, her mother stood by the sea, smiling with such tenderness that it broke her open. Her mother didn't speak, but the feeling lingered all day. "I'm still with you." And in that moment, everything shifted. Scorpio, those moments are real. They are not mere dreams. They are visitations, gifts, evidence that the bond never broke, it only changed shape. There are days you walk through this world with a weight you can't explain, as if you're carrying not just your story, but the remnants of others who came before. That's not imagination. That's sensitivity. You are a psychic conduit, able to feel into the invisible. You absorb what others ignore. You catch whispers no one else hears. And sometimes, those whispers come from her. You may hear her in a song, one she used to hum while cleaning. You may feel her in the wind as it wraps around your shoulders, just when you were about to fall apart. You may catch her scent in a crowd, a perfume long gone, but suddenly so present you stop breathing. These are not coincidences. These are reminders. Invitations to remember. She's near. In spiritual teachings, we are told that souls who have completed their earthly journey become guides, not because they are perfect, but because they now see clearly. Your mother may have struggled in life. She may not have always had the words or wisdom you longed for, but in spirit, she has become more than she ever was in form. And now, she offers that to you. Her role now is not to fix your problems or change your path, but to gently walk beside you as you navigate them yourself. She is the silent witness, the steady hand on your shoulder, the sudden peace that floods your chest when you think all is lost. Do not dismiss these things, Scorpio. They are sacred. In a world obsessed with proof and logic, you are the keeper of the mystical. You know, instinctively, that love does not die. It only transforms. That the soul continues. That goodbye is not the end, it is a veil, and veils can be lifted. If you've ever felt a deep urge to light a candle, to speak to an empty chair, to stare at the stars and whisper her name, that was the bond calling. That was your heart remembering what your mind tries to forget. And here's something remarkable. When you speak to her, she hears you. Every word, every sigh, every silent tear. The invisible bond between you is not metaphor, it's energy. And energy, as even science agrees, cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. So speak, not just with words, but with your spirit. Write her a letter. Tell her what you never got to say. Or say nothing at all and just feel. That, more than anything, is your language. She wants you to know. She didn't leave you. She simply moved into a different room. One without walls. One without time. One where she can finally, fully love you in the way she always wanted to, free from fear, free from pain, free from all the things that once held her back. This bond, Scorpio, is not your burden. It is your blessing. It's why you feel things so deeply. Why you sometimes cry without knowing why. Why you dream of her even when you haven't thought of her in months. Because she thinks of you always. And tonight, she is near. DNA Part 4. The Ancestral Call. Scorpio, have you ever felt as though you were carrying emotions too ancient to be your own? As though the grief in your bones didn't start with you, but with those who came before? That's not imagination. It's ancestral memory, and you are one of the rare souls brave enough to face it. Every family has a story. A wound passed down like an heirloom, quiet resentments, unspoken sorrows, cycles of betrayal, silence, abandonment. Most people ignore these patterns. They live inside them blindly, repeating what has never been healed. But not you. Scorpio sees what others deny. You feel the undercurrents. You sense the emotional blueprints etched into your lineage. And because you feel them, you can transform them. You didn't just inherit your eye color or your laugh. You inherited energy. The suppressed grief of your grandmother. The shame your father never voiced. The rage that your great-grandfather drowned in silence. These echoes didn't skip you. They settled in you, not as punishment, but as a calling. You are not broken for feeling this deeply. You are awake. I once met a Scorpio man who couldn't explain why he felt haunted by sadness every November. It wasn't depression. It wasn't seasonal. It was something else. After some digging, he discovered that his maternal grandmother had died tragically in that very month, long before he was born. The family never talked about her. She was a secret, but his body remembered. His soul remembered. And through ritual, prayer, and deep emotional work, he released the pain, not just for himself, but for her. Scorpio, this is your medicine. You are the soul sent to break the chain, to end the patterns, to say, this pain stops with me. But make no mistake, this is not an easy task. It requires confronting shadows, naming the things no one else will name, feeling emotions so big they feel unbearable, And yet, somehow, you do. You survive them. No, you transmute them. It's in your essence. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. And Pluto does not deal in illusions. It takes you to the root, the core. It burns away what is false so that what is true can finally emerge. And sometimes, what emerges is you. Not the version of you molded by expectation, but the soul, raw, radiant, eternal. Your mother, from her place beyond the veil, knows this. She sees now what perhaps she could not see in life, that your intensity was never a threat. It was a torch. And now, she entrusts you with something sacred, not just her love, but her unfinished healing. She doesn't ask you to carry her pain. She asks you to release it, to offer it back to the earth, to light a candle not just in memory, but in liberation, to say out loud what others never could. I see the wound, and I choose to heal. It doesn't require perfection. It requires presence, a willingness to sit with discomfort, to not run from tears, to not numb the ache, to listen, to breathe, to trust. Some days, you may feel overwhelmed by the sheer weight of what you carry. That's okay. Rest is part of the healing too. You were not sent here to fix everything overnight. You were sent here to feel, to witness, to be the one in the family who finally says, enough. And in doing so, you become the ancestor who changes everything. Imagine, years from now, a child being born into your bloodline. They will not know your name, but they will feel lighter, freer, as if some ancient burden has lifted, and it will be because of you. That is the power of answering the ancestral call. You are not just Scorpio. You are the sacred bridge between past and future. The soul brave enough to walk into the fire and emerge, not burned, but reborn, with truth in your bones and love in your hands. Part 5. The Mask and the Mirror. Scorpio, the world sees your intensity and often assumes you're invincible, stoic, in control. But beneath that poised exterior lies a truth far more powerful and far more vulnerable. Because what most don't realize is that your silence, your composure, your distance, they are not signs of apathy. They are shields, built from experience, forged in fire, honed over years of being too much for others to handle. As a child, you may have felt things before you had words for them. You learn quickly that the world isn't always kind to those who feel deeply, that people are often afraid of the raw, the honest, the real. So, you adjusted. You hid your softness behind sarcasm, your tenderness behind toughness, your longing behind logic. And it worked for a while. But the heart, Scorpio, cannot be masked forever. Sooner or later, the mirror appears, not the one in your bathroom, but the mirror of the soul. It arrives quietly, in a moment of stillness, a breakup, a loss, a dream that won't leave you. And suddenly, the mask no longer fits. You begin to see the cracks. The truth is, that mask, that armor, kept you safe when you needed it. It protected the child inside who had no other way to survive. But you are not that child anymore. You have grown. And now, the very walls that once kept pain out are keeping love from getting in. I remember a Scorpio man who told me, I feel everything, but I never show it. I can't afford to. The moment I do, people either leave or try to fix me. He wore his confidence like a weapon, but behind it was a loneliness so profound it ached in his bones. He didn't need fixing. He needed space to feel without fear, to be seen without being judged. Scorpio, you deserve that space too. You are not here to pretend. You are not here to please. You are here to live fully, and that means taking off the mask, looking in the mirror, seeing what's behind the eyes you show the world. That's not easy. In fact, it's terrifying. Because when you peel back the mask, you don't just find light. You find anger, grief, disappointment, emotions you've buried so deep they've become almost mythic. But you also find love, hope, innocence, dreams that still flicker, even if quietly. Your mother knows this struggle. She saw you, even when you thought you were invisible. She felt the pain you never spoke. And now, from her place of clarity, she whispers, you are safe now. You don't have to keep bracing for impact. You don't have to keep pretending everything is fine. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You just have to be honest. With yourself first. Take off the mask, not for the world, but for you. Sit in front of that mirror and ask the questions no one dares to ask. Who am I beneath the roles? What do I need, truly? Where have I abandoned myself just to feel accepted? You don't have to answer right away. Just ask. Just begin. The answers will come not from the outside, but from within. In whispers. In dreams. In the unexpected clarity that comes after tears. And when you do look in the mirror, really look, you won't just see pain. You'll see power. You'll see a soul who has survived more than most can imagine and still loves deeply, still hopes, still believes. That is your magic, Scorpio. That is your truth. And your mother, watching with eyes that see everything now, is proud. Not because you're perfect, but because you are real. And real is rare. Fire Part 6, the sacred flame. Deep within you, Scorpio, there is a fire. It does not roar. It does not rage. It burns in silence, steady, ancient, eternal. You didn't ignite it. It was passed to you. A sacred flame entrusted to your soul long before your first breath. This is your mother's gift. Not a trinket, not a memory, but energy, a presence, a code woven into your spirit, subtle but indestructible. It's the part of you that knows even when you can't explain, that still believes even when all seems lost, that continues to love even after loss has left you in ashes. Not everyone receives such a flame. Not every soul can hold it. But Scorpio, you were chosen, not because you were perfect, but because you were ready. Your mother may not have known how to say the words you long to hear. She may have faltered. She may have hurt. But in her quietest, purest moments, she recognized something in you, something ancient, something luminous. She saw it before you could. And now, from the other side, she wants you to remember what she always felt, that you carry a power few will ever truly understand. This flame is not about anger or control. It is not ego. It is purpose, presence, a knowing that no matter what happens, you are not broken. You are becoming. I once sat with a Scorpio woman who said, I don't know where my strength comes from. It's not pride. It's not defiance. It's just always there. And I told her, that is your flame. It is the moment you rise after the 100th fall. It is the intuition that warns you of betrayal long before it arrives. It is the clarity that comes in your dreams, the conviction in your voice when you speak truth, the peace in your chest when you finally let go. And here's the beautiful truth. This flame cannot be extinguished. Not by disappointment, not by heartbreak, not even by death. In your darkest moments, when you feel the world crumbling and the weight of your own depth feels unbearable, this flame is there, small, perhaps, but alive. Always. Your mother sees it now with new eyes. Not the exhausted ones of a woman burdened by life, but the clear, infinite eyes of spirit. She sees your glow. She sees the light you don't always believe in. And she is in awe. Scorpio, you have been through so much. Pain has visited you. Loss has marked you. And still, you carry light. Do you understand how rare that is? Most people dim after trauma. They retreat, close off, build walls. But you transform. You go deeper. You walk into the fire and emerge wiser, softer, stronger. This is your sacred alchemy. And that alchemy is your mother's legacy living through you. She does not need you to be anything other than who you already are. You don't need to prove your worth through perfection. You don't need to heal every wound overnight. You just need to keep the flame alive. Some days that means roaring like fire. Others, it means simply breathing, quietly, knowing that your light still burns. Tend to it, Scorpio. Feed it with honesty, with self-compassion, with rest. Speak to your flame like you would a child, gently, reverently. Let it know you see it. Let it know you're listening. And know that your mother, from the place where all love returns, is tending it too, with every whisper of wind, every flicker of intuition, every unexpected peace that finds you in the chaos. You were never meant to go through life numb. You were meant to feel, to burn, to light the way, not just for yourself, but for those still lost in shadow. The world may call your flame too much. Let them. The truth? Your light terrifies those who are not ready to see their own. But for the ones who are, you become a lighthouse, a firekeeper, a mirror of what is possible when a soul chooses courage over comfort. So light your candle. Reignite your rituals. Speak your truth. Live as if your presence matters, because it does. This is the flame your mother gave you. And now, Scorpio, it's time to let it shine. Candle Part 7, the Karmic Awakening. Scorpio, there comes a moment when your life begins to make sense, not just from the lens of this lifetime, but from a cosmic scale. It's the moment you realize, this didn't start with me, but maybe it can end with me. That's the Karmic Awakening. It's when the heaviness you've always carried suddenly feels ancient, not just emotional, but energetic. Patterns that have repeated not just in your own life, but in your family, in your ancestry, even in the world itself. Pain that echoes like a distant drumbeat through generations, finally meeting a soul brave enough to feel it all. And that soul, Scorpio, is you. You didn't choose an easy path. Your soul signed up for the deep work, the shadow work. You're the one who looks beneath the surface, who dares to question the story, who senses that the chaos in your life holds a message older than memory. Why do you attract unavailable love? Why do you carry guilt that isn't yours? Why do you feel responsible for healing things you didn't break? These aren't flaws. They're signs. Traces of soul contracts written long before you were born. Agreements your spirit made, not to suffer, but to free. To break the cycle. To rewrite the code. You see, karmic patterns are sticky. They repeat in families, in relationships, in lifetimes, until someone becomes conscious enough to stop the loop. That someone is usually a Scorpio. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have the courage to ask the questions most won't. This is why you felt isolated at times. Why your life has often felt like a battle no one else could understand. Because your soul is doing work for more than just you. I once met a Scorpio woman who said, "I'm tired of being the strong one." And I told her, "You're not just strong. You're sacred. You are healing a lineage." She cried, not from pain, but from recognition, from remembering who she really was. That's what awakening feels like. It's not sudden. It's subtle. But once it begins, you cannot unsee. You begin to notice patterns everywhere, in your parents, in your grandparents, in your own choices. You begin to feel compassion, not just for yourself, but for those who came before, even for those who hurt you. Because you understand now, they were acting out their own unhealed stories. They passed down what they didn't know how to hold. And now you hold it. But Scorpio, here's the most powerful truth. You don't have to keep holding it. Your mother, from her place of spiritual clarity, wants you to know it's okay to let go. You don't have to carry the burdens of those who came before. You're allowed to put them down. You're allowed to heal for yourself. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward differently. It means releasing guilt, shame, and fear that were never yours to begin with. And when you do, when you forgive, when you feel, when you free yourself, you don't just heal your timeline. You send waves of healing backward and forward through your bloodline. You become the ancestor who changed everything. You become the reason a future child is born into a family that knows peace. You become the one your grandmother prayed for, without even knowing your name. And your mother, she sees this. She honors this. From beyond the veil, she sends strength. She sends clarity. She sends love without condition. Not for who you were told to be, but for who you've become and who you are still becoming. This karmic awakening isn't the end. It's the beginning of your soul's most powerful chapter. Now, Scorpio, what will you choose to do with it? Snake Part 8. The courage to transform. Transformation is never comfortable, Scorpio, but for you, it's written in your bones. You are the only sign ruled by both Mars and Pluto. Mars gives you the fire to fight, and Pluto gives you the power to surrender. And between these two forces lies your greatest gift, rebirth. But let's be honest, rebirth isn't beautiful at first. It looks like destruction. It feels like losing everything. It starts with letting go of what you once thought was essential, old identities, relationships, stories, even pain that had become part of your personality. It's terrifying, but it's also the beginning of everything real. You've reached that edge now, haven't you? That moment when staying the same costs more than changing ever could. Where the weight of your own armor has become too heavy to carry. Where the silence you've built around your truth is finally breaking open, not out of weakness, but because your soul is ready. Ready to feel fully, to forgive completely, to release unapologetically. This is the sacred moment of the Scorpio soul. The moment where you step away from the ashes of who you've been and begin to sculpt who you were always meant to become. But make no mistake, this takes courage. Not the kind the world applauds. Not the kind that charges into battle or conquers empires. The kind of courage that wakes up every morning and chooses to be honest. To face the pain. To not run. To stay present. To still believe in love, even after the world has tried to teach you otherwise. Your mother, from her place beyond, knows this intimately. She too once stood at this same threshold. And maybe she couldn't cross it in her time. Maybe she carried wounds too deep, patterns too old. But now she sees with clarity. And she passes the torch to you, not to suffer, but to finish what she began. You don't need to burn everything to the ground. Transformation isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's sitting in your car crying because you finally let yourself feel. Sometimes it's saying no for the first time, not because you're angry, but because you're healing. Sometimes it's choosing not to reply to the old trigger, or finally speaking the truth you've buried for years. That's real power. And Scorpio, you were born to wield it. Not against others, but for your own freedom. I once met a Scorpio man who'd built a life that looked perfect from the outside. Success, charm, control. But inside, he was a ghost. Numb, disconnected. Until one day, something broke. He left a toxic job. He ended a hollow relationship. He sat alone for months, feeling everything. And then slowly, he started over. With less, but with truth. And in that truth, he found himself. That is transformation. Not changing for others, but returning to yourself. Let your scars be visible. Let your story be raw. You don't owe anyone perfection, but you do owe yourself truth. And when the fear creeps in, because it will, remember, fear is a sign you're close to the edge, close to something real. Let it shake you, but don't let it stop you. Because on the other side of that fear is you, the real you, the free you, the version your mother always saw, even when you couldn't. Let go, Scorpio. Shed the skin. Trust the process. This is not your undoing. This is your becoming. Speaking Head Part 9, The Voice of Truth. Scorpio, your silence has always been misunderstood. People think you're hiding, withholding, manipulating. But what they don't know is that your silence has never been about deception. It's been about protection. You don't speak unless the words matter. You don't share unless the space is safe. You don't reveal unless your soul feels seen. But something is changing now. You're feeling it. That pressure in your chest, that ache in your throat, that rising wave inside you that says, I cannot stay quiet anymore. This is not about yelling. It's not about proving. It's not about defending. It's about owning. Owning your truth. Speaking your story. Taking up space with the fullness of who you are. Not the edited version, not the filtered one, but the raw, powerful, luminous truth of your soul. Your mother always knew you had something important to say. Maybe she didn't know how to help you find your voice. Maybe her own was silenced, too. But now, from her place of wisdom, she wants you to know your truth is sacred, and the world needs to hear it. Even if it trembles, even if it breaks, even if it doesn't come out perfectly the first time. Speak it anyway. There is a kind of healing that only begins when the truth is spoken aloud, when the pain is named, when the joy is claimed, when the soul steps forward and says, this is me. You've carried so many stories inside, Scorpio. Stories of betrayal, of beauty, of survival, of love that burned too bright to last. And for too long, you've kept them hidden, buried beneath layers of I'm fine, swallowed in moments of silence just to keep the peace. But peace built on suppression is not peace. It's paralysis. It's time to set your voice free. Not just for others to hear, but for you to hear. Because your voice holds memory. It holds truth. It holds vibration. And when you speak what's real, you don't just express, you activate. You begin the process of becoming whole. I once sat with a Scorpio client who had never told anyone the truth about her past. Not even herself. She'd built a life of perfection, polished, elegant, unshakable. But the cost was her voice. She didn't know who she was anymore. Until one day she broke. And through tears, she spoke her truth for the first time. About her grief, her rage, her love, her longing. And you know what happened? She didn't fall apart. She came alive. Scorpio, this is what happens when you speak your truth. You return to yourself. Let your voice be messy. Let it be fierce. Let it be holy. Let it be yours. You don't have to explain your pain, but you are allowed to honor it. You don't have to justify your joy, but you are allowed to celebrate it. You don't have to wait for permission. You already have it, from your soul, from your ancestors, from your mother's spirit. She's been waiting for this. To hear your truth spoken not as a cry for validation, but as a declaration of being. Say it, Scorpio. Say it with your whole chest. I am here. I am worthy. I am not afraid of who I am anymore. This is your voice, your power, your return. Let it echo through your life like a sacred song, one only you could sing. Milky Way Part 10, The Eternal Embrace. There are no goodbyes between souls that are bound by love. And Scorpio, Between you and your mother, there never truly was a goodbye, only a transformation. You've walked through grief. You've faced your shadows. You've spoken your truth. And now, as the dust settles, something rises. Not fear, not sorrow, but peace. It's subtle, but undeniable. A warmth in your chest, a calm in your breath, a gentle knowing that whispers, she is here. She has always been here. You've carried her pain. You've honored her memory. But now, Scorpio, it's time to receive what she's been trying to give all along. Her love. Pure, boundless, free of expectation, free of history, free of everything that once made it hard to say. And that love? It wraps around you like light. You don't have to do anything to earn it. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to be perfect. Just breathe. Let it in. Let it settle into the places you once thought were too broken to be healed. Let it flow into the cracks that formed when you were too young to protect yourself. Let it fill the silence you've carried for far too long. She sees you now, not the masked version, not the wounded child, but the radiant soul who chose to heal, who chose to feel, who chose to love again, even when the world gave you every reason not to. You are not just her child. You are her legacy, her hope fulfilled. And as you take your next steps, lighter, freer, more whole, know this, you are never alone. She walks with you, in every breath, in every moment of quiet courage, in every choice to love. This is the eternal embrace, not an ending, but a beginning. The beginning of a life lived fully. A life where you trust your instincts, where you speak your truth, where you create beauty from pain, where you remember, no matter what happens, that you are loved beyond measure. Scorpio, you are the phoenix who chose to rise, again and again and again. And now, you rise with grace, with light, with the full force of your mother's love in your bones. Let the world see you. Let them feel your warmth. Let them witness what happens when a soul refuses to give up on itself. And if this journey, from pain to presence, from silence to truth, from shadow to flame, has touched your heart, we invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to the path to Buddhist wisdom, not just for more messages like this, but to walk this sacred path together, to explore healing, awakening, and the beauty of being seen in your wholeness. Your soul deserves it, and your mother, watching from above, would want nothing less. Scorpio, thank you for your courage. Thank you for choosing the light. Thank you for remembering who you truly are. This is not the end. This is the return. Welcome home.